What happens when undead bloodsuckers rise from their grave and not even the Earth's mightiest heroes are strong enough to stop them? Well, let's hop into the pages of Blood Hunt issue number 1, the grand kickoff to Marvel's massive new crossover event, and find out together, shall we? So then, as we join the story in progress, things are looking bad. Several heroes and villains with connection to Dark Force and the Dark Dimension have all exploded into portals, which are now leaking inhuman shadow all across the globe, blotting out the sun and the moon. Scarlet Witch and Iron Man are the first on the scene, but clearly this is a global problem, as we're also sure to check on in with Hunter's Moon and Tigra over at the Moonlight Mission. Again, characters and places you would know pretty well if you were reading Jed MacKay's Moon Knight series. In fact, a lot of stuff from that Moon Knight series actually kind of ends up being the backbone of this event, so here's hoping you're up to speed, everyone. Now, this darkness is just a herald of things to come, as all over the world in populated city centers, armies of vampires begin to crawl out of the shadows. This sneak attack ends up taking most of the world by surprise, though there are places like Latveria wherein Doctor Doom seems to have prepared for such a strange scenario, making sure to light up vampires like the 4th of July the second they end up crossing the border into his nation, while also taking in a bunch of very grateful refugees. When it comes to placing blame for this series of attacks, the Avengers are rightly so quick to jump to the conclusion that this must be the work of Dracula, because, you know, whenever vampires act up, it's usually because of him. Though, admittedly, none of this really matches his current modus operandi, as Dracula has been pretty happy just being the leader of Vampire Nation and running his own country out of Chernobyl. No one can actually find Dracula either to ask him what's going on, meaning that it's most likely not his handiwork. It's here that Blade, probably the Marvel Universe's biggest vampire expert, radios into the Avengers saying that he has important information that can blow this caper wide open. They're just going to have to beam him up to their brand new space base for debriefing. Cap and the others end up doing just that. Unfortunately, they are horrified to realize once the truck door opens that the Daywalker is not inside. Instead, they're met by their brand new foes for this series, a group of so-called ultra vampires codenamed the Blood Coven. And wouldn't you just know it, there's one for each individual member of the Avengers team to fight. They all have unique powers on top of just being vampires, and they even have cool vampire code names like, get this, Megrim, Smoke Eater, Damascene, as well as Cruel and Unusual. No, really, their names are Cruel and Unusual. I love a silly-ass comic book name, and even I think that's a little on the nose. The vampires waste absolutely no time combating the rest of the Avengers team, and it's made abundantly clear that they're about matched in terms of power. We also learned that the Blood Coven have clearly been planning this attack for a very long time and made sure to come up with stratagems to best neutralize each individual member of the Avengers team. In fact, they had hoped that they could turn Sam Wilson Captain America. After all, if Captain America became a vampire, he would cease being a symbol of his nation and end up becoming a symbol of the new rising vampire nation. Now, another big important thing to note about this new Blood Hunt series is that there's actually two different versions of this first issue. There's the regular version that I'm working from right now, and an actual more R-rated explicit version that, from what I understand, actually showcases more blood. That being said, though, Thor ends up actually suffering one hell of a grievous injury as the vampires literally impale him through the head. I mean, ouch, even if you're a god, that is gotta hurt. When it's made clear that the heroes aren't going to win this fight, the only option they have left is to try and retreat. Black Panther heroically ends up staying behind to fight so that everyone else can escape, especially Captain America, who he says is an important symbol that the world is going to need to rally behind if they ever hope to win. Which, I haven't been reading the Jed MacKay Avengers book in a bit. I know Sam and T'Challa didn't actually like each other there for a minute, so it's nice to see they've actually moved past it. Also, we see that Black Panther ends up suffering a very grievous injury himself, though it's heavily implied that the Blood Coven never actually planned to kill the Avengers. They hope to keep them alive for more insidious reasons that have still yet to be revealed. Now, what the hell ever happened to Blade, you might be wondering? Well, it seems that he decided to go to the Sanctum Sanctorum to look up Doctor Strange and CLEA. Steven is actually hard at work trying to research a spell that he believes will actually allow him to wipe out every vampire on Earth, though he could still you some insight from Blade as to what exactly is going on right now. It seems that these vampires who have plotted this series of attacks are known as the Structure. A name you'll actually know well again if you were reading the Jed MacKay Moon Knight series. Mark Spector had actually killed the Structure's old leader, and now it seems that they've been replaced by a much more evil master with even higher aspirations. As far as the Blood Coven goes, they're a new generation of ultra vampires fed on the blood of superhumans, and endowed with even more nasty magical arts to give them the edge. Basically, they're the vampire Avengers. Blade actually questions Doctor Strange's plan to wipe out all the vampires on Earth for a number of reasons. One, to do that, he would need the use of the Darkhold, a magical evil book that's been lost ever since Scarlet Witch, well, kinda ate it? And secondly, is really killing every vampire on Earth a good idea? I mean, again, in that Moon Knight book, we saw several actual good vampires who really don't deserve to die just because the Structure is acting a fool right now. It's also around here you're probably wondering what Doctor Strange is wondering, and that is, hey, Blade, how do you know so much about the Structure's plan? And the answer for that is quite simple. Blade knows about the Structure's plan because Blade is actually the Structure's brand new leader. This is a twist that's probably gonna feel like it came out of left field to anyone who wasn't reading that last Blade series, which you should because it's only 10 issues and it's excellent. Basically, in that book, to defeat the bad guy, Blade drank some of Dracula's blood. It gave him amazing new abilities, but it also kind of drove him crazy, and now right here at the end of this book, we see just how crazy it drove him. And so that was Blood Hunt issue number 1, everybody, and honestly, there was a lot to like about this first issue. It's fun and exciting, moves at a good pace, and certainly feels like a solid setup for a good summer event story. Hell, this story feels like it's really important to Jed MacKay because he's referencing back to all that great Moon Knight stuff that he had done elsewhere and now folding it into his bigger Avengers series. Likewise, it's nice to see Blade being given the spotlight, even if it is in kind of a questionable way as they're doing the whole Daredevil Shadowland thing. You get to be a headliner, but only as a villain. If nothing else, maybe it'll get people to read that last Brian Hill series for context, which you should because it was great, by the way. But still, I can't help but shake the feeling a lot of readers are going to have a problem with that last twist. Personally, though, my real problem is with just how goddamn big Blood Hunt is going to be. Seriously, look at this right now. This simple event that's only 5 issues in the main series is going to several new books, about a dozen one-shots, and even more tie-ins to ongoing books, meaning that no matter how you feel about Blood Hunt, you're not going to be able to ignore it until at least mid-September. Also, if you've crunched the numbers, that's about 60 issues of comics for this one event. And honestly, I just don't know how much drama, character, and pathos they're going to be able to wring out of Avengers Fight Vampires. Hell, I stopped reading the main Jed MacKay Avengers book because I thought the pacing was too goddamn glacial. Now you're telling me they're going to be stretching this very simple idea out for that long? I don't know, man. Overall, I'd give this issue a 7 out of 10. It's pretty damn decent, and I'll certainly be following the main series as well as any other Marvel books that it ends up touching that I'm already reading, but I'm certainly not going any deeper than that. Especially not now when Marvel is also expecting me to continue to buy a dozen different X-Men books just to see the Krakoan era to a proper end.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.